Like a trusted turnout jacket you've had for years, Flex 7 outer shell fabric delivers a perfectly broken-in feel on the very first wear. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of Enforce technology, Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tencatafabrics.com/flex7. Flex 7, powered by Enforce technology, only from TenCate Protective Fabrics.
Seconds count when responding to an emergency. Minutes save count when documenting your day. Emergency Networking makes records management easier and faster with its Fire and EMS solution. User-friendly, complete online and offline functionality, highly customizable, all at an affordable price. For more information, please visit emergencynetworking.com.
This is Sons of the Flag Radio, brought to you by Fire Engineering Blog Talk Radio. Our mission at Sons of the Flag is to revolutionize burn care and the quality of life for veterans, first responders, and families. Sons of the Flag believes that the future of burn care resides in research and development. Our vision is to accelerate the process of testing leading technologies and pushing them into circulation for immediate use by burn survivors across the nation. We bring together passionate community leaders, pioneering physicians, dedicated first responders, and purposeful civilians to complete our mission. If you'd like to check out any of our other episodes of Sons of the Flag Radio, you can log on to Blog Talk Radio on Fire Engineering and type in Sons of the Flag and find any of those past episodes. You can also find us on all social media by typing in @Sons of the Flag. And again, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
Yep.
Twitter,
all the above.
Elon land, Twitter. As always, we want to...
Zuckerberg hasn't banned us yet, so we're good.
Yeah, not yet. Give it time. As always, we want to start our show off by honoring our fallen brothers and sisters since our last episode, and we also want to take an extra moment to remember all of our fallen law enforcement personnel and our military heroes that we've lost. Our fallen firefighters since our last show are Richard Hempel, Kyle Osgood, James Muller, Sean Daniel, William McHale, Stuart Hunt, Brian Latrent, Bobby Smith, and also local firefighters that we've lost is Captain Jamie Graham from the McKinney Fire Department and Chief John Ashman from the Louisville Fire Department. Let's take a moment of silence for these heroes. We're back. We're back, man. So
After our last episode, which was it happened to fall on the anniversary of Cherry Road, which was super important to us, and
yes,
that was an incredible episode. But we have another one for you.
It was a great episode, and we've been looking forward to this one. We've had to do some moving around because of Mr. Complicated himself right here, and his schedule gets in the way. But
and now we have a new podcast studio set up, so hopefully we'll be able to do a few more interesting podcasts in the future. Next time we have Don Graves, World War II Iwo Jima veteran, coming in. So.
Yes.
We got some good stuff lined up.
Yes, absolutely. We got some exciting things coming up. But today we have 3FTL guests in the house. We have Jennifer Halley and Brian Halley. Thank you guys for both being here and joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit, 3FTL. I know from my personal organization, obviously in the North Texas area, I think most fire departments know you and can get a hold of you at a moment's notice. But just give a little insight about what 3FTL is, and then we'll kind of lead into y'all's past history. What kind of led us to this moment now?
Sure. So 3FTL is a comprehensive treatment team for first responders, their spouses, and their family. And what I mean by comprehensive and all-inclusive, and it's really everything designed for them under one umbrella. And so it starts with myself, who I like to call myself the chaos coordinator, which is what I do very well. But we have myself, and then we have 4 people on our medical team. We have a psychiatrist as well on our team. They come in, they see me, they see the medical team. The medical team does all of the medical-y pieces, whether it be sleep, medication management, nutrition, anything that they feel like is deemed as far as on the medical aspects. They come in to see me. We do an intake. We also just meet them where they're at as far as whatever the medical team wants. And then we're up to now 54 counselors across the Metroplex that are handpicked. They specialize in trauma. They specialize in other modalities to help work through and process trauma. They have lots of letters behind their name, but our liaison, as far as what our counseling liaison does, is we pick these counselors based on those aspects, and we can talk about that later.
No,
but
yeah, I say, do y'all actively recruit them, or is it that they see your name, they seek you guys out? How does that process work?
So both, really, especially in the last probably 2 months, we've had multiple people reach out to us and say, we want to help these first responders, but not everyone is up to that challenge.
Right.
And so our clinical liaison meets with each and every one of them, lets them know the expectations. They have to meet the credentialing requirements that we want to have on our referral team. I also meet every single one of them and make sure that they'll fit within our realm. My promise to every first responder and spouse and child that comes through our program is that we've handpicked and I've met every single person so that I trust that person as well. To answer your question, it's kind of both, but really we're actively looking for specific areas. Again, they range everywhere down from Austin all the way up to the Oklahoma border with these counselors, and has to be a special breed to work with you guys.
Yeah.
So
it's bad when the counselors go walking out of the room crying.
Yeah, no, that does not happen on our watch.
You're trying to talk to them.
No.
As a civilian of the group, I completely understand. I believe the first event that I did with a bunch of firefighters was out in Portland, and I'm a writer, so I had my journal with me and stuff like that. And somebody decided to take my journal and, let's just say, draw some crude things.
Of course, yes, of course.
just as a welcome to the group kind of deal.
Oh yes, well then you're one of them. That's for sure.
Indoctrination at its finest.
Right. But we require that they see their counselors once a week in person, and I'm always behind the scenes making sure that they're meeting their goals, they're meeting their expectations, they're attending counseling once a week, they're following their medication regimen, whatever that looks like, their medical regimen. That's all on the outpatient side as well. Along with all of that, we have a peer team, which Brian will talk about in a little bit, but they have to meet with our peer team, who are also equally trained and handpicked. Just because they're there for support. I mean, every department, it seems like, has a pretty good peer team or wanting to be a peer team, but it also takes a special breed to be on that piece as well. And so our peer team is very near and dear to our hearts, and again, handpicked. That is just the outpatient side of what we do. We also do crisis stabilization, suicide stabilization, detox, residential facilities that we partner with, both for dual diagnosis and just anxiety and depression. We'll do massive rollouts for mass shootings or for line of duty deaths. Our peer team works very, very well in that piece too. So really, to sum your very first responder question up with a very long first responder answer, is we do everything.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, we're going to figure it out. And if it's not us, we're going to find the resources to help you do that, because this mental health world is completely broke.
That sounded like such a comprehensive, comprehensive list. We've had a few people on to discuss mental health. My brother-in-law is a ER doctor, and he was talking about how doctors they have to fill out, certain things about their mental health, and if it catches a red flag, then they may not be able to be a doctor anymore. And it's one of those bizarre, and when you talk to people about it, everybody kind of just gives you that little the tilt of the head, like, really, that's how they treat people who are having problems. And that's how they just kind of shove you off to the side.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it's something that I think for the average person who looks at a first responder, and as a female, I mean, let's be honest, you all look smoking hot in your Class A's, but behind the scenes,
thank you.
You're very welcome.
She didn't look at me.
I was like, take the compliment.
Yeah.
Take the compliment.
Yeah.
But it's behind the scenes, and we lose more first responders to line of duty deaths, or we lose more first responders to suicides than we do line of duty deaths. I mean, you just rolled out a whole bunch of names. I don't know what those aspects were, but more to suicide or secondary suicide, which we like to call it as well, than we do line of duty deaths. But that's not, as tragic as that is, that's not really what's getting everybody. It's they're crawling to retirement. They're crawling into their fourth or fifth marriage. They're crawling into their kids hating them. It's sad, and it's not, and it shouldn't have to be that way, nor does it have to be that way. And so we exist. Obviously, our little tagline is to save those who save us, and that's why we're doing this. And we're a nonprofit, and so we're not here to make a lot of money, but the comprehensive aspect is what you would think would turn people off as tight knit as what this program is and what we require of them. But in the 5 years that we've been doing this, very few people have said this is too much. And it's not a la carte. You have to do the whole thing or nothing, and that is what I think makes this succeed.
And I think this has been one of the subjects that we highlight pretty often during some of these conversations, especially when dealing with burn survivors, and not just the survivors, but also with the families, right? This is a package deal. Whenever somebody's injured in this, with a burn, is dealing with the trauma side, right? The PTSD side, and just the mental aspect that this starts weighing and taking a toll on people, because this is not a one and done type of injury, right? This is a prolonged injury. Look at Zach and DJ and their whole family aspect, right? The whole world is flipped upside down. And I think the unfortunate thing about the fire service, it's taken them too damn long to recognize that there's actually a problem. I just sat through a great lecture the other night on mental health through my Fools organization. And that's one of the things. It's taboo to talk about, right? We got to be these hard chargers. We don't let ourselves be seen, but we want people to see the mental side. And if we can save one person and help one person, then we've done our job. But to see the staggering statistics of what's actually recorded suicides to line of duty death, it's staggering. It should be scaring the shit out of every fire chief and every city administrator in the United States right now. The U.S. Fire Administration, I think they do a great job, but I think just like every bureaucracy, we've dragged our feet for so damn long. Cancer, PTSD, we're just now addressing these issues. They've been a known problem, but we've been so stigmatized that we can't talk about it because of the masculinity side, right? We're tough go-getters, that we have to just push it down and go home and deal with it. Well, as somebody who is doped up on a lot of medication now, having to deal with it, it's not right? My family suffered, and families continue to suffer. You nailed it just a minute ago, right? Marriages, families, work, livelihoods, and we've got to stop it somewhere. And to have organizations like you guys out there being hard chargers. How many counselors do you say you have now? Over 50?
54.
And then North Texas.
Oh, wow.
That's absolutely amazing and absolutely astonishing. And one of the things I wanted to highlight was at our Fools meeting the other night, normally we get about 20 people, right? It's been good. We had over 60 people over 2 nights, and it's because the interest is there. And we had multiple fire chiefs finally in those rooms listening to people talk. Not people like me, it's people that have dealt with it directly, right? Casey from Dallas, who dealt with the shooting. He was one of the speakers in the Dakota from Carrollton Fire Department. She ran their captain. To hear it from their mouths and how they overcame and where they're at now. Casey's running the peer support program for the Dallas Fire Department. That's massive. But to have people like you guys, this is absolutely astounding to see.
Well, and I still get not as much pushback, but I do a lot of the psychoeducation piece within departments as well. And I put on this mom voice, this mean mom voice, like I call it, because we have a lot of salty, old school firefighters that feel like mental health is something that you can't do this job if you don't have an emotion, or if you have an emotion. And to me, I tell them, and I looked at them and I'm like, you're part of the problem, because I'm a geek, and I will say that multiple times throughout this show, is I will get into the weeds with you and I will tell you exactly what your brain is doing. And when it is done, and it's going to spill over and it's going to be messy because you cannot outrun science. It's going to catch up with you. Mm-hmm. So the more you try to bury it, the faster it's going to chase you. So you choose right now. You can choose to have a healthy career, which you can, because you're going to see some really crappy stuff and you're going to get burnout and you're going to get compassion fatigue and you're going to get all of this stuff that's going to come. It's going to happen. So you can learn the tools now and spend a little bit of money, said department, to fix everything from the shoulders up, because you spend a shit ton of money fixing it from the shoulders down. So you better start looking at the brain itself. And it's not a one all, one be all, one thing done. It is a everyday in the woods, in the weeds, in the trenches, working through this mess, because that's exactly what it is. But the beauty of all that is you can be better.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can be absolutely be better. And so for you to tell me, Brian's from a generation where it's just like, well, suck it up, buttercup, the kind of thing. Science has evolved so much just in the last 5 years that we've been around that it's amazing to understand and know what your brain is capable of doing. And you don't have to live this way.
Mm-mm. No, you don't.
And like with everything, and it's always bizarre to me that you have these groups that are they understand that training the body is necessary. They understand that being, ready for all these different scenarios that they have to go through. But everything starts mentally. Correct. Everything starts from the top down. And if you're not mentally prepared to put up with these things, and with training, you can train your body to take those extreme moments and to learn to de-escalate your body from having this anxiety and all those things. Right. But it just takes a little bit of training. If you're going to take all that time, like you said, from the neck down to put as much money into your person as possible, why not just that little bit more? It's not that much more of a percentage, just a little bit more.
Right, absolutely. And you have to get with the people that actually understand your world and understand what's going on and understand the ups and the downs and the adrenaline and all the fun neurobiology stuff that goes along with it, because you can't just utilize somebody that has no training in that piece. And
you mentioned his generation. Have you found that the generations coming up are a little bit more open-minded about it, or a little bit more?
Absolutely.
Good.
And I think you can attest that as more of a senior person in a department, that's probably the hardest thing is how do you lead that person, right? I don't manage them, but how do I lead them? Because they're questioning, but not questioning to argue with me.
No,
I was raised in, hey, this is why we're doing it. Okay, let's do it. That's it. I'm not going to question it.
Yeah.
And they question it. The generations changed. When I started 25 years ago in this business, it's completely changed. We've had some major events in the world that have changed us.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the most difficult things as an officer within a department, be it police, fire, EMS, as an officer, is how do you tailor to that person and try to be equitable to everybody else, right? To be consistent, because I can't treat my 20-year guy the same as the 2-year guy.
Yep.
But I have to be consistent about it. So how do I do that?
You got to tailor your approach.
We have all
this
stuff, and nobody can see this, but technology.
Yeah.
That's what they know. They can go look it up right away, where we got to look at a book. We need to go to a book to figure it out.
And that's one of the things that I've become, because I teach at Collin County Fire, the Academy also. And that's one of the things I can say that they've really started to push into the curriculum side is addressing this issue, right? Hey, you will see some stuff. It's going to mess you up, and you have to reach out. You are not a tough guy. Yeah. But the thing is, I've had to learn, especially going to my new role, is that you've got to meet them halfway.
Yes.
And sometimes, as much as I hate technology, even though I have 2 laptops and 2 cell phones in front of me right now, is you've got to meet them at their game. And sometimes finding those little things, those little nuances that help them reach out to you in a different way than what me and you can walk up and be like, hey, dude, I got some big shit going on right now. Whereas now I get like, give a little app. Casey brought up a QR code the other night at the meeting, and they can secretly.
That's what we've
QR
got
codes.
one in my department. We've got I think it's called Lighthouse. I think.
Sean was talking about it today.
I think I can say that. Lighthouse.
Yeah.
I think it's free.
Yeah, it's a free app.
There's part you can pay for, but even just the free part, I mean, our whole peer team is on here, and they can message me direct. Like, nobody knows. None of my administration, none of the city, nobody knows about it, and that's awesome. And we put that out in the department. Hey, if you got an issue, here's a QR code. Go ahead and just scan it. And on top of that, it has a list of any resource that's available. It's got 3FTL on there. It has the AP. It has some other counselors and therapists that are on there that they can reach. There's an 800 number on there. So it's a great resource to have, especially for the newer generation. And I hate saying this F word, they have the feelings, right?
Yes, that's true. I was going to go on that too.
They have the feelings. But I don't, if any of the guys that I work with that are younger or that know me, I'm not being an asshole about it. When I say they have feelings. I think it's great. I wish I would have been able to come forward that many years ago instead of waiting till it blew up. So I think it's great. And I think it's great that these academies are teaching them. And Jennifer goes and talks to rookies. And when she does that, I mean, it's you look at them and she'll tell you they're such babies. Like,
not babies,
no, they're just little. They're young.
They're
right?
young.
They're baby faced and
I
fresh.
could be their dad easily.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And but I've been married for 23 years, so I can't be their dad.
But it is nice
If
that
you're 24, we can talk.
it is nice though that they're recognizing within like the rookies that we talk to, and then bringing in the spouses, which we talk to as well,
big,
because like you said, everything bleeds over into the families. And so what we know about PTSD as well, or PTS, any of that, is that it does bleed over into the family piece. And so with 3FTL, with our homie group, our spouse group that we have, the kids group, all of the same services that we offer our first responders, we offer to the spouses and the kids. And at the same financial discounts that we offer if the first responders going through 3FTL. And so it literally is, like you said, a complete comprehensive one-stop shop for everything. And it all arose from just seeing this need, and then our personal tragedies and coming through. But when it boils right down to it, I'm like, it's not rocket science.
No.
And when we lose somebody, and we have lost the presentations that I'm doing now, in the last 6 months, we've had 10 in North Texas by suicide. 10.
Yeah.
And it pisses me off more than anything. It's sad, and we've been directly involved with. And just right now alone, you had said, earlier too, and I'll get back to the point where I was going to, but the statistics are going to be skewed because there's not one national registry or anything that says you have to tally that. And so up until probably last year, unless that suicide was messy, it never was ruled a suicide. Well, now that it's becoming line of duty deaths, we're going to get better data, yay, but that's still bullshit, because these people, when, like Brian was saying, there's an app that has all of this help. All you have to do is just reach out to somebody. That's the thing. And there's so many wonderful people around the Metroplex that will do that. And so when we lose somebody, I get very angry.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Very angry.
As somebody who had my own mental health issues, whenever I was younger, I went through a lot of different things, attempted suicide. One of the things that you find so often, and especially being surrounded by other people who have been in the same mindset, is it's so preventable. It is so preventable because it's just a thing that comes to your head for that moment, and it's that split-second decision that you make. And one of the mantras I kind of came up with just for myself to get through it was just wait.
That's correct.
Just give it. Just
be still.
Give it one day. Just if you feel like shit that day, give it the other day. It will dissipate. But whenever you're in those anxiety moments and you're in that flustered depression, you're just going to make that split-second decision, and it's going to destroy everything. And like you said, not just for you, like your family, your friends, everybody connected to it. And the fact that y'all have people that understand that it's not just that individual that's going through this. This depression is going to go, because whether you like it or not, no matter how much you internalize, no matter how much you keep it inside yourself, it's trickling down to your spouse.
Absolutely.
It's trickling down to your kids. You're treating them differently when you feel these feelings. So to have that understanding of top to bottom is absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think confidentiality is the biggest key too.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
It's all about privacy, because I don't want people knowing my business. I'm very open about my business. But I want people to know, like you said, we all have our internal struggles. It's okay. I want you guys to feel comfortable, and I want to create that bond between somebody. But I also want them to feel, if you need to talk to somebody, I don't need to know about it. You know, I run our health and wellness program for my department. I don't know who goes in and who goes out, and that's the best way. And I love it because it builds that respect from each other and with that trust with each other, and it builds these types of programs to be that much stronger when you do have that level of secrecy. And it's paramount that a chief does not need to know every damn person
They don't.
that is involved.
Not when they work with us.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
You know, and I'll even say, you're talking about my HR earlier, and I love my HR, because we've had people have, you know, illnesses or injuries, and they call me. I'm like, well, who was it? Well, we can't tell you, and we're not going to. I'm like, thank God.
Good.
And I'm like, you did the right thing. And that's when you hear those HR managers and those HR directors. I'm telling you, we have two of the best where I work. But having that level of trust with them, having the level of trust with the counselors in these organizations like you guys, is essential to the success of reducing these numbers. Because I'm telling you, I'm with you. McKinney had some big issues recently, and I've talked to those guys. I love them to death, and they have fought through. And when one happens around here, it pisses me off, because it affects everybody that's in this area. It affects everybody in the state, this region. It has a profound impact on everybody that wears this uniform and swore that oath. And I mean, if you don't, then we've got to reevaluate why you're in this job.
Well, and that's the thing is, I mean, it doesn't matter, PD, fire, whatever, you know, EMS. We're all first responders.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, it's a brotherhood, sisterhood, how you want to look at it. We're all together on this.
Yep.
We're not one of us has been through the same thing the other one's been through. Maybe similar,
Yeah.
but not the same. And I think the biggest change we have to make is not, this is what I go about in my peer program. I didn't never walked in your shoes, ever. You've not walked in mine, but I'll walk next to you.
Yep.
And we're going to get through this. And I'm not going to be in front of you, behind you. We're going to be right next to you, and we're going to lead you through this.
Absolutely.
And I think if we can somehow figure out how to bring that into the mental health world within these organizations, that everybody is jacked up.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I promise you, you're jacked up. But if we can just somehow figure out how to say, hey, we're gonna walk next to you. I'm not gonna try to be in your shoes. I'm not gonna try to understand exactly how you felt whenever you had your moment of weakness that you had, right?
Yeah.
So I had mine. That's what I was looking at. Looking up. I've had EMDR done, so I'm missing some dates for some of my stuff, but I always go back to make sure I find those dates. You know? And when mine happened, I had one. We mentioned that chief earlier. In another department. That's an amazing guy. He was there that night. And he's the one. I will tell you, if he calls me right now, I'd tell him I love him to death, and he saved my life, because he didn't send me home, and I was on shift. He kept me at work. Had I gone home to them, if I'd have gone home to them and a little baby and another baby, I mean, I'm done.
And you're taking it out on everybody that you come across along the way.
I'd have been done. Like, I told him he'd have a funeral in 3 days. And I need to stay here. And he did. They kept me there. But, and that was 2014. So that's what I was looking at. And I was also thinking, while Jennifer was talking, this is a little off subject. everything big happened on my big 10s and my birthdays.
No.
20, I had something happen to me. 30, I got kidney stones for my 30th birthday. I turned 40, and on October 27th and October 28th, I ran probably one of the worst wrecks I've ever seen in my career up to that point. And I started in 98, January 98. And up to that point, and it wasn't a fatality. And it was amazing. It was a Marine veteran that was having a mental health crisis. And how they were alive, I don't know. But it was amazing. But 3 days later, on October 31st, I just turned 40, is when I broke.
Yeah.
That was it. And I ran a simple cardiac arrest, and it was on an infant, or not even an infant, it was a younger child that was 5 days younger than my youngest child. But I ran that call, and I had run probably 50 in my career up to that point, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
And it hit, and everybody that was with me were like, man, this guy's been doing it forever, and look at him.
Yeah.
He's broke.
Yeah, he's broken.
Yep. And we don't know what to do. So they didn't know. They didn't know who to call. They didn't know what to do. They threw me in the back of an ambulance and took me back to my station. We got to call chiefs. We got to do this. I can't speak.
Yeah.
So I went through that, and then it was in a year, almost to the day, was her incident. So in 2015, October 25th, 2015, was the Stillwater event.
Yeah.
And they were roughly 10 feet away from that young lady that decided she wanted to take her life and
Yeah.
take people with her.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted to bring that up because I know that was a defining moment in your life and career trajectory. And I wanted to kind of talk about that because I think it's important that when tragic events happen like this, that you turn it into, it's going to take a time, but turn it into a positive force.
And that's what, with mine, we had no idea. And she'll tell you, she doesn't remember. She blacked it out or something. But I came home that next morning, and I bawled in her lap in our closet. And I was scared, but there was no help. She didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with me. And so we just kind of fought through it. And then her incident happened. I still did. I mean, hell, I've been a paramedic since 1998. I should know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And we fought and fought, and that was several months. There's a friend of ours that's on a peer team, and he says it the best. He says it's the deconstruction of a human. He watched the deconstruction of a human in front of him. That's why he's in the mental health world.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm still in that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I watched with her.
I
watched that for almost 10 months before we found Marcy, who's on our board of directors, and she's been with us since day one. But being able to watch that, and now retrospectively, we can all look at all of the tragedies that we've had, and we've seen the good that comes out of it.
Yep.
And we have to go through the suck in order to figure it out.
Sometimes it's like,
Deconstruction of a human.
Isn't that awesome?
That's a great term. That'd probably be the name of the podcast.
I want to
like that
give
a lot.
the guy's name. I just don't know if he.
yeah.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
But
what a good term.
But I mean, he told me that one day, and I was like, I'm still.
I like that.
Like, I'm gonna steal it. It's
Yeah.
happening. So
Sorry, it's now a podcast name.
Yeah.
So you wanted to get into what is the incident specifically?
Yeah, do you want to kind of elaborate? Because I know I've heard it, but you tell it way better than anybody else.
So I am a graduate of Oklahoma State. Go Cowboys, go Pokes. And I have
Gonna make a lot of enemies there.
That's okay.
Don't worry, this show's not broadcasted there.
Bring it on. It should be.
It's only in Norman.
That's only where the fire service.
Yeah.
I bet it
Mecca
probably
of
is.
the fire service
Yeah.
is from Oklahoma State.
I had a lot of fun at OSU, and every single person in my family went to OSU. My dad was Pistol Pete. My kids came out of the wound like Go Pokes. The whole shebang. Like, we have drank the Kool-Aid, and they've gotten a lot of money out of us too. But Brian even came into the family like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like, why are we going? So anywho, We, my family and I never missed a homecoming ever. And Oklahoma State homecoming is nationally known. Like nationally known, hundreds of thousands of people roll into this little bitty town for homecoming celebration. And so at least 5 years, because my oldest was 5 at the time, we never missed a homecoming. And it starts with, a huge festivity on Friday night. Saturday morning is a parade. Mm-hmm. Never missed this parade. We always met my extended family, everything right here on the corner by Hastings. Every time. That's where we were. That's where the parade ended. So that morning we were late.
Our littlest never sleeps in, even to this day. She's 10 years old?
Yes.
Yes, 10.
Wow.
She will be up with me at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So. And she slept late. I was angry.
Yeah.
I was angry. I was angry because, my mom and my dad and my brothers and everybody were waiting for us. Well, they got tired of waiting on us, so they moved to the front of where the parade started. And my dad was on one of the floats because he's ex-Pistol Pete. Anyways, so we show up late, and, we trotch down to the corner, and we're like, where is everybody? And so I call my brother. I'm like, where are you? He's like, well, we got tired of waiting on you, so we moved to the front. And I'm like, I cannot. I was so mad. I'm like, well, we'll just go and we'll get some coffee, and we'll just walk in front of where this restaurant is. So we walk up there, and so my 2 kids, they were 5 and 1 at the time, sat down on the curb with my coffee, probably 5 feet, 6 feet from where we were.
Yeah,
it wasn't very, very far. Brian is 2 rows behind me because he's
actually leaning against the truck on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
There's a sidewalk there. Somebody's pickup was parked where it was supposed to be, so I leaned on it.
Yeah.
That was my seat.
Heck yeah.
And unbeknownst to us, by the grace of God, he was standing next to a Oklahoma City firefighter at the time. And so it was towards the end of the parade, and I've got Tatum, who's my youngest, is on my lap, and Keaton is right beside me, and I just hear this noise, and it is, your brain doesn't register it at the time, which a few degrees after this, because we go back to school and we can't figure out something, but I know what was going on at that time.
Did we get it?
I tried. Nope. Sorry.
But there's a large crash, and I hear all of these things, and I turn and I look, and I see this car coming at us that has just blown through the entire mass of people that are standing in this area. And I immediately jump up, and if you can imagine the chaos that's ensuing at this particular time, I jump up, I grab Tatum, and I can't find Keaton, and that's my oldest. And I was an EMT for a while, and I was an EMT for a little bit as well. And so usually on things like that, I would go into go mode, right?
Yeah.
But at that particular moment, I was completely in mom mode, and I couldn't find my oldest daughter. And I turned around, and her look on her face will forever be burned into my memory of just pure panic.
Yeah.
And I run back, and of course I can't find Brian, but I already know exactly where he is. He's in the midst of everything.
Yeah.
And what took place that day was multiple casualties in this little bitty town, and within, I don't even know, time is irrelevant at that point.
Yeah.
Helicopter after helicopter after helicopter after helicopter just started flying in. I can't find Brian. I know where he is, but I'm trying to keep my kids sheltered from now body bags everywhere. And the screams and everything that you can imagine. And so my brother and my dad finally come and pick up my 2 because they have no clue what's going on. So obviously it hasn't hit social media at that point. And I hand my kids off to, well, actually my dad and my brother said, give her to me, which there's a story about that too. If you have time, I'll tell you about that. But give her to me, and I gave both of them to them. And as soon as they took my kids, I collapsed, and there was somebody there that just caught me, and I don't even know who it was, but it was like every adrenaline piece just came down, and it was unbelievable. And he finally came after a while, because I knew not to leave, to stay put, because that's our thing.
Yeah.
covered in glass and blood, and he's fine, so to speak. And when I get home back to my mom and dad's house, I have never shook my entire, like I've ever shook before. And what came through in that weeks and months that followed was absolute hell. And a friend of ours at the time who was a military veteran looked at me on Sunday, and he said that Sunday after it happened when I got home, and he said, are you all right? Are you good? And I'm like, what do we all say? I'm fine. I'm good. He looked at me and he said, no, you're not. I can tell you're not. But I had no clue. This was 6 years ago. I'm like, I had no clue what was going on. And so what pursued in that, the months that followed, like he said, was again the deconstruction of a human. And I'm a type A Texas strong-willed Christian woman, and I could not pull myself out of this hole. I was in the closet taking the pills. I was in the closet, with all the stuff that you can absolutely imagine was happening in front of me, and I had no clue what to do. And when I got the PTSD diagnosis after 30 days, Brian was on shift, and I told him, and he was like, his words out of his mouth exactly were, are you fucking kidding me? You're a civilian.
Yeah.
And I was like, right. Yeah, you didn't answer right. And I sat there and I was like,
or you'll get over it.
Yeah. Suck it up. Yeah. But that journey is what started 3FTL. One of the pieces was I had a team of people who wrapped their arms around me because I went back to work. And I told Brian as we were driving in, I was like, well, this is poetic. Yeah. Because I had my first panic attack the Monday after that I've ever experienced in my entire life right down the street at Medical City in the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
I got out of the car and I saw a shoe laying in the parking lot, and I dropped to my knees. And luckily, I called him, and he was using everything that he possibly could to get me to get up off of the concrete and at least walk in the hospital. I worked in sales, so I was in the hospital. But that's not where it stopped, because then I had another one in the parking lot of Methodist Richardson, and I couldn't move. I couldn't even unbuckle my seatbelt. I could not even function. Yeah. And somehow he routed me to the clinic now, who's where our medical director is. And I sat in that corner and I bawled my eyes out, and they developed a plan to help me back to life. And that is what this piece is, because I had a medical team, I had a counseling team, I had a peer team at the moment. I had people around me that were like, go here, do this, follow this lead. And so when we talk about the fact of post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic stress disorder, which is 30 days or longer of post-traumatic stress, I have been on the other end of that, and I know what that's like, and I know what that feels like. And I would not wish that upon anybody on the planet. I didn't necessarily know about what the brain was going on and what the brain was doing at that time. I went back and got a second master's degree in trauma psychology to figure that out. But I had no clue what that was like and what that was. And so I feel for each and every person that does that. But you said, you take all of those things, and God had a bigger plan for me, and our pain, which this was just a minor piece, and he'll talk about Tony in a little bit, but it was just a huge purpose of what he had designed for us and still has designed for
absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. We did the interview about Cherry Road last time, and I think I speak for everyone. We wish traumatic things didn't happen. We wish that terrible things didn't happen to people, and that people didn't have to pass away for us to learn lessons, and traumatic situations didn't have to happen. But the fact that there was a lesson learned, and the fact that even with the horrific thing that you went through, and y'all were able to bring out this that is saving so many other lives and is helping other people, it's I hate to say it like this, but it's nice to see something beautiful come out of something so traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you said something in there that kind of clued me in, you know, a little bit further. Is you talked about social media. You know, when I dealt with some of my issues, that was my biggest demon, because you can't escape the stories. Like you said, stories are on there and they're going to circulate. And then you have people that can always gain access to you at all times, right? You know, when we went through my issue, it was the neighbor behind my house that was the kid that I ran on. It was his high school teacher who had just nominated him for an award, and then he killed himself a week later. So they just kept having these interactions, but it was the social media side, because you can't get away from stories, right? And that's why I feel for families, when you start seeing these types of stories and they're on that 24-hour news cycle, you just can't escape it. And now that we're so involved with social media, how do you escape it? And, you know, these demons are ever so present, and it just compounds it even more. I think it makes y'all's job that much more difficult, because now you have an extra element that you weren't dealing with. And now we can basically throw the entire damn world in the mix now, because anybody has an opinion. Anybody can say anything when they're behind a keyboard about your situation, or the story keeps compounding itself and you keep seeing it over and over, and you just can't escape it. And that was one of the hardest things, I think, for the longest time, was seeing certain stories and seeing my neighbors posting things, asking questions. And because I wouldn't talk to him anymore, because he kept asking me questions. He wanted to have a dinner at our house, and all he wanted to do was ask about the fucking suicide.
Yeah, I know. And people
I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to eat a hamburger, and you
people
guys go
are
home.
Idiots. I'm like, you know what? You have no clue. Like, really, that's the thing too. It's like one of the things that I did wrong, which I know now, because, you know, I had to go back and get another degree for that. I couldn't just use common sense. Was like, I knew none of these people in Stillwater. I wasn't connected to them either way. But you know what I did in that closet weeping? I looked up every single one of them on Facebook, and now I have a face to a name. And so one of the first things we tell our clients too is like, stay off of social media. Like, just you have enough trauma in your head as it is. Maybe it gives you closure, I don't know, but do that with somebody that's super smart and lots of alphabets behind, or, you know, letters in the alphabet behind their name, if you want to do that. Like, that's the thing it feels like to me. It's like people just want to know. They want to be curious about it, but they don't want to know the dirt.
No.
They don't want to know they want to feel like they want to know. But I'm like, you know what? Come stand in our shoes for a little bit and really get into the weeds, and because it's messy.
Yeah, I've always said, come pick up a kid's lifeless body.
Absolutely. And you don't want to know that. That's why I said, I'm like, you guys all look hot. In your
She finally looked at me.
In your class A's. But let me tell you what it's like. It looks great, you know, to be on social media and be like, guess what I did today? You know, all this kind of stuff. You don't see a lot of us on social media because you don't want to know what we deal with every day. But I want you to know. Yeah. Because we need support.
Yeah, because people need to know.
You need to know that it's not all great. And that's just one little piece of where 3FTL originated from, but it's and I share my story, and I just now can do that. I just went through that intersection 3 weeks ago. Yeah. For the first time in 5 years. And so when first responders come to me and they're like, how long is this going to take? I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't walk through an intersection. Yeah. I couldn't go through an intersection for 5 years, but I can now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I still drive by that. I can still drive by that house and the hair stands up on my neck. I mean, it's just there. Every time I drive through the neighborhood, I can pinpoint it.
But there's hope. Yes. Because science has advanced, and we know more about the brain than what we did 5 years ago or 20 years ago. Yep. That you don't have to suffer. No. You're never going to forget. They can't make you forget, but they sure as hell can make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, that's the thing about progress and innovation, especially in the science world, is that we've got to quit resisting half the crap that's out there. Yeah, there's a lot of BS. But there's a lot of great information out there. There's a lot of great people, you know, just across the United States that are heavily involved in these types of programs. I mean, the resources are there. The science and the data is there. Quit turning a blind eye. Yes. When somebody's suffering, put your hand out. You know, I think of the picture of Christ, right? You're walking down the beach and the footsteps are next to you. Yes. You just can't see it, but he's always there. Yes, absolutely. It's the same way. That's how we treat mental health. That's how we should be treating it, is that we're always, like you said, walking with you. I'll never know, but I'm going to be right there with you.
Absolutely.
And I think we got to have that mindset.
Well, and it's something too that there's so many resources. There's so many resources. And you know what? I'm open for everything. When I was in that corner bawling my head off, if Marcy would have told me, who's our medical director, if she would have told me to walk that line backwards 6 times and I'm going to be better, I would have done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
So that's what we do. That's the program that we've designed. Here's the blueprint.
Yeah.
It encompasses everything imaginable that you could possibly think of.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're going to need, we're going to find it for you and guide you and give you the blueprint. You just have to be willing to change.
Yeah.
Period.
That's one of the things I've always believed in. And like I said, I'm seeing 2 different counselors, and they've all said, you got to put in the work too.
Absolutely.
It's not just here's your pill and let's fix it. You have to meet them halfway. Yeah. And that's what I think is great, is that when you meet them halfway, I think they extend themselves a little bit more, right? Mm-hmm. They want to see that you're working towards it, because y'all can only encourage us so much, right?
Yes.
We have to be proactive. And if we're not meeting you halfway and putting in the work, there's certain things that I do when I go home. There are certain things that I do. And I know before I get home, I go through my processes, especially if it's been a really shitty day. I know exactly when I start feeling that little anxiety starting to kick in, I know exactly what I need to start doing, because I don't want my wife and kids, and I go through my process, but I'm working like they tell me to. And I think it's important that if you're going through these things, it's going to take effort. It's going to be exhausting.
That's right. And it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done.
It is.
Because we don't like change.
No.
But I also tell people too, I'm like, you don't go into the gym and do 10 bicep curls and expect to have biceps.
Well, if you see Landon, you would see that.
Well, Landon, you're like, you're the anomaly. But yeah,
the whole.
But your brain is the same way.
Yes.
It was meant, and God designed it
absolutely
to rewire and rebuild and re-strengthen, and it absolutely can do that.
Absolutely.
Building those habits is, we all get stuck in habitual loops, and building new habits onto that. Yes, it can be irritating. Yes, it can be. Can drive you nuts sometimes, but that little bit, just those little bit of habit changes can, shift your whole perspective.
Absolutely.
Can shift every way that you're living your life. It can change. It can make you where you're irritable in the morning to where you actually have some good outlook. Just waking up differently. Hell, just making your bed in the morning can change your outlook on how the rest of your day is going to go.
Accomplish something.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's just we turned 5 at the end of this month. We've been here for 5.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
huge.
Awesome.
We're going to do a little birthday tour, but
that's great.
I didn't, all of that pain and all of that stuff that my family went through and Brian went through, and watching me, basically, I had almost a year of deconstruction. I watched him, and one day 3FTL didn't aspire to be first responder based.
Right.
It didn't.
No,
but
it was a boutique.
Yeah, it was very
the real
bougie.
name of it was very.
Yeah.
So we'll just say it one time. 3 for the love.
We're DBA.
It's tattooed on her wrist.
Sons of the Flag is Heroes for Heroes.
I saw that. Yeah, I was like, I wonder if they had the same.
We just had to do a little shift.
Shifting around. But it didn't.
3FTL is. It was never meant to be for us.
Yeah.
Like I've said before, hey, I was the first client, right? I'm not only am I an owner, but I'm a client.
Yes, just say you beat me to it.
Think, what was it, Rogaine or
George Zimmer or whatever? Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was just part of her therapy was blogging.
Yeah.
And journaling. I guess we call it journal. I called it a blog.
Well, they wanted me to journal and I was like,
turned it into a blog.
Yeah.
But so some of the friends that we had back then, those wives are like, "Oh, I'm having a problem too, and can you help?"
Yeah.
And so that was what she did, and when we started it, it was just to protect her because she was sitting in with these people.
Yeah.
And she has a medical background, just not in the brain.
Yeah.
Wrong part of the body.
at that time.
Yeah, at that time. At that time. And so it was just to protect her. But then and it's funny because I actually looked at this, and she's probably going to slap me here in a second. But we got our official 501c3 on June 14th, 2018.
Oh, congrats.
So,
Hell yeah.
and I say that, how long it takes
Yes.
to get one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was backdated to then, but we had our Texas
Yeah.
LLC at the same time for a nonprofit. And it was at the end of that month that we lost my captain. So we had actually created it before Tony passed. And so that was that. When you look back at it, like I looked at it today, I was like, holy shit, like it was done before then. And this whole time I thought it was because we didn't get our paper until 19.
Yeah.
But in your paperwork from the government, it says effective back to, and it was, I believe it's June 14th, 2018. And so actually we've already turned 5, babe.
Well, we're celebrating in July because I couldn't get my shit together in June. We had a lot of stuff going on in June.
But when all that happened, I never realized it. And then when Tony passed, he was my first captain at the department I'm with. And he meant a lot. And kind of one of the stories, and Jennifer, not a lot of people know this, he actually did the woodwork of my parents' house in 1994 in South Lake.
Oh, wow.
His best friend was their builder. And I remember talking with him because my family did custom homes in West Texas, and I wanted to learn about woodworking.
Yeah.
And he was doing woodworking. So
that's awesome.
I actually knew him, but didn't.
Yeah.
Back in 1990, let's see, they moved in 95. So it was probably January-ish of 95.
That's wild.
When I met him for the first time. But he was my captain. And he was in the fire service 20 plus years. And he lost. And it's unfortunate. He was and I tell everybody this, he was a great, great man. And loved his family, loved the craft that we had. He loved my children. He loved all of his guys that worked for him. He loved all of them, and he loved their families. I think he loved my wife more than me. He and my 2 daughters. But he gave them their nicknames, and so to this day, my 15-year-old is known as Smiley. The guys that were with us back then when he was my captain, I was a rookie. Like they see my oldest, like, oh, there's Smiley.
Yeah.
And so, he meant a lot, and that's kind of where, and she can kind of maybe tell that part, but that's where this really changed to 3FTL.
Okay.
That's that defining moment. Now, we didn't officially change the name for a while, but that was really the defining moment. Yes, we had our demons, we had our problems, but the day that happened, that was her first time to ever go to a firefighter funeral and to see the procession and the line of all these people that respected this great man, and to see us broken, right? And we just didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And
that was her comment to his wife was, never again. I will do whatever I can to keep this from ever happening again. I don't ever want to come to a funeral because of this again. And, to see that drive behind her all the time, I mean, it is exhausting what she does for me.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the exhaustion on her. Jester over there is completely put out.
I didn't even introduce Jester, and I feel bad about it.
So the star of the show is over here sleeping.
Yeah.
He's had supper, and now he's sleeping.
The podcast mascot now.
Yeah. But when to see that passion that came out and fire really was, I mean, to this day it's still there. And she'll tell you, can I just go sell library books and we can just do, but at the end of the day, she would not enjoy doing any of that.
Yeah.
And she knows that's her purpose. And so for that, I applaud her. And she is more brave than any one of us to take this on and go toe to toe with people that are like, I run a Fortune 500 company. I don't have employees, or I have employees. They're just a number.
Yeah.
And she changes their mind.
Yeah.
So
That's incredible.
I mean, that's the thing. I think to deal with some of us too. I mean,
we're dicks.
We're assholes, and
I think she's got a saying about, what is it?
You're all assholes. It doesn't give you a green light to be a dickhead.
that bingo. Yeah.
Or you're,
As a civilian that's around them all the time, I can concur.
Yeah.
or you're an asshole. You're just not going to be as big of one when you're done with it.
Yes. Yeah.
Realistic expectation, guys.
Yeah.
And girls.
So
It's interesting too that when you mentioned, like, I didn't realize that either, that the nonprofit started before Tony's death, and I met our spouse director at Tony's death, Erica, at the funeral, and I met our peer coordinator for the very first time, who was Erica's husband.
Well, boyfriend and girlfriend
at the time, but they got married. Sean, who've been with us from day one, at the funeral, and it's just amazing how that worked. And I think you said it most. Going back to what you said too, the tragedies and everything that come out are used for good, and we lost Tony, but how many more people?
Oh yeah,
have
I think
been saved? I think that's in videos.
One of the first videos I ever did. That was the best video ever. It got us a little recognition because everybody's like, "Oh my God, I cried," and I was like, "You should see me. How many takes?" But no, I mentioned it in that video from a couple years ago when we did it, and if not for what happened, how many more would we have lost? Mm-hmm. How many more? Yeah. And I saw a post, and I know we're all over the place this way. My dyslexic mind works.
No,
but there was a post made, and I don't post on social media. I look at it, read it, and I don't typically post anything. But I responded to this comment that somebody I know posted, and it was talking about mental health. June's mental health awareness. May was suicide prevention.
Yeah.
September. I mean, we have them.
It's something.
September 10th is suicide. Suicide awareness.
Yes.
Which is weird because that's my birthday. Which is just
so
bizarre for me.
See.
So
yeah.
So we have all of
these. A long time ago.
So we have all these things, and somebody was posting about it, and this person posted 1 in 5 firefighters will commit suicide. And I was like, my reaction to that was, and she goes, or somebody posted that, this other person posted and said, that's only if it's logged or
it's reported.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I could respond to that, and like I said, I don't respond to stuff on that. I don't want to get drawn in, and I just don't. But I responded and I said, that's the most accurate statement I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Because it's not 1 in 5. I promise you.
Yeah.
I can go back and tell you all these people that have passed away that they got their benefits.
Yeah.
ME did them a solid. I don't know if they know this or not.
Which plugging.
But they did them a solid, right? But like she said at the beginning, we're never going to know, but we know. I can list them off. I can tell you when they're like, oh, that was an accident. They were sick, and okay, they weren't. But I don't want their family to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so it is alarming. But what you guys are doing here, the fact that you're having, and I know this isn't the basis of this, but the fact that you're like, hey, man, we're going to talk about mental health.
Absolutely.
Not just because it's Mental Health Month or whatever month it is.
Or it's the buzzword.
We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
And all of these other places out there and platforms that do that, I support you 100%.
When our audience is predominantly, I would say 90%, 95 is firefighters, since it goes up on fireengineering.com. Yeah. So I mean, these are people hearing what you're saying. They're like, I know somebody. I know 5. I know 10. I know 20 easily. And we're coming to the end of the podcast. But I just wanted to say before Bemis gets onto it, what y'all are doing, the mental health side, working with Sons of the Flag, burn survivors, you can fix the body, you can do the surgeries, and it's very, it's seeing some of our patients is just something that I'll never get over. But the mental health side coming out of that, Zach could talk about it. There's so much more to be done. There's so much more, and the fact that y'all are, that sadly you had to go through this traumatic situation, but the fact that y'all are doing this, I just want to say from my side is fucking beautiful. Like I think it's absolutely incredible what y'all are doing.
Yeah, I think it's past due having these types of conversations, and our platform is burns, right? That's what our passion is. That's why we all joined Sons of the Flag. But we'd be ignorant to not recognize this side, and I think it's imperative that they do go hand in hand, because it's not just like, again, said it earlier, it's not just the patient, but it's the family, right? They're all suffering, and if we're not addressing this, then we're basically turning a blind eye, because there's a bigger element. We can, like I said, we can dress you up, we can fix you, do whatever we can. There's an internal war that you're going to be battling, and how do we help you with that? No, organizations like you guys is how we start this, and I think it's imperative that organizations like you guys are out front, and that people know how to reach out to you, whether they're in the state of Texas or not. You can point them to maybe a resource in their state or their local jurisdiction if you're not able to help them. And I think that's where the whole networking side is. It comes in. We have over 30 people in different states right now on the burn side. Mm-hmm. We can send people wherever we want, and if I have somebody that needs help, I know exactly what state to go to and who they need to talk to. Just like with this network with you guys, it needs to be built up the same way. And, you guys are doing a hell of a job in the North Texas area. And I know this past, 12 months for us in this area have just been a nightmare. Yeah. And the unfortunate thing, I don't know if it's going to get better, right? Because we have a lot of people walking around in the darkness. Again, this is where we as first responders have our job is to check in, right? Yeah. To check in and make that first step. Get a damn QR code. Give it the most secret way of reaching out that we can to meet the younger generation. And I think I had a conversation with some of the Dallas guys, because right now what they're dealing with, I think 7 attempts this year already. Yeah. And that's just attempts.
Yeah. But I think it's important for people to understand, just similar to burns are never going to stop. No. We're always, that's just how life is going to be. Mental health is never going to be fixed. It is always going to need work. It's always going to need
a process.
It's always going to be a process. We have brains break sometimes, and it's going to take groups like yours and the understanding from firefighters and other first responders and military and government officials that this is what happens. Now get off your ass and pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm. And it was funny when we first started too, our counselor liaison, Barbara, who has been with us for a while as well, she asked me, she goes, do you think there'll be enough of a population? And I went, yeah, I think we will. And we still are averaging 8 to 10 new first responders a week.
Yeah.
A week. And that doesn't include their spouses or their kids. Yeah. And so that's great. I'm glad we're busy. I'm glad, there more people are reaching out, because again, like I said before, you do not have to suffer. And just to put the plug in there too, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know if you can help me, Jen, because I really don't have any trauma. And I'm like, well, trauma's relative for everybody. That's different.
I call bullshit.
Yeah. And I'm like, you've been a first responder longer than 5 minutes. We're going to pull it out of you. Don't worry. But I would say, I don't have any statistical data on this, but 90% of the people that crawl through our door, it's not about one call.
No.
Ever.
It's a stacking.
It's compound. It goes all the way back. And like I said before, one of my favorite quotes is, you cannot outrun science. Mm-mm. It's going to catch you. And so I'm like, bring it on. Bring it on in. It may not be the one call like Brian's that set him over, but it was all the white noise behind the scenes. And that's the things that you can control.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just had a meeting today for the Collin County Peer Support Network.
Oh, yes.
And so thankfully my department were being brought into it, and so today was my first meeting, first time attendee.
We love them.
It was great.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Right. We love them. Yay.
And the things that are happening there, and y'all's organization was brought up numerous times by several of the individuals.
There's a lot of chiefs in there that were
on
the forefront.
Day one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were absolutely.
And
we will listen.
And what the plan for them, like I said, first meeting being there, and I'm just blown away about what their vision is, and that is to basically build a coalition of Collin County departments to all come together with organizations like you guys to really be that forefront in this crisis, in this battle against it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's paramount because, as some of the departments said, even the larger departments were overwhelmed with some recent tragedies that they didn't have enough people to handle it. And they not only did they handle it,
they're not supposed to handle it.
No, it was
that hits them. That's their tragedy.
Because
they don't need to be doing this.
Yeah, we're all tied together.
Yeah.
You know, everybody and that's the unfortunate thing about the fire service is that everybody knows somebody by proxy, right? You're a captain in South Lake, building your parents' furniture. I mean,
PD,
it all comes around.
PD, dispatch, medical examiners.
Absolutely.
Like we touch all of them.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, our dispatchers to me are the unsung heroes because I know one of them personally who was involved with the Allen shooting recently, and just through conversations with her. What they have to listen to is even worse than what we did. See, where I'm from, we used to have to do our own EMD. Call will come through county, and we'd actually be on the phone. There's a ringtone. I'm not going to tell anybody what the ringtone is because once I hear it, I just like lose my shit. But there's a ringtone. We'd be in the middle of sleep at middle of the night. Ringtone would go off, and we're doing our own EMD dispatch. So we might be telling these people how to do compressions, listening to them on the phone as we're driving to this call. And there was one call I'll never forget. We were talking to her. She lived exactly 2 minutes away from the station. We get there and she's already dead. We never got her back. But we were talking to her on the phone.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
And they deal with that daily.
Daily.
Not to mention the knuckleheads that are on the law enforcement side that PD's got to deal with. I mean, that's a whole different animal. But to listen to somebody's last breath on a phone, they don't get the it's the way I look at it.
You got a closure on it because you got to find them.
That's the closure.
And you're like, you know what? I get to see it. They get to let their mind run wild.
They'll never. And
that
they never know.
imagination will tear them. And we touch dispatchers, all that. You know, they come through peer.
Yeah.
And just talking to and the dispatchers that I know,
that
I've talked to, just listening to, and I tell them all the time. I go, I can't even imagine. Like, you're making it difficult for me to sit here and try to come up with tools to help you.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine if you told me, hey, this is the call that came in. These are and she knows, I tell her all the time, some of my traumas that they've been working on to get rid of is screams.
Yes. Yes.
And if you have screams, like she's a huge baseball fan.
Yeah.
She got
college baseball.
She got. I kind of snapped on her because she hooped and hollered and it scared the absolute dog shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like scared. My heart rate went up and my caveman kicked in. My frontal lobe shut down and I was like, I need to kill somebody.
Yep.
Because something has happened.
Yep.
And I had to explain to her. I was finally like, because we don't talk about what each other is going through. Or any of our clients, her clients, you know, any of them. But I told her, I said, I'm going to tell you, this was part of my trauma.
Yeah.
This was part of my EMDR, were the screams.
Yes.
And I was I was an ass to her when I did it. I apologize. But that fact of what I heard, and then you talk to a dispatcher, and that's all they hear, and they don't get to see the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would love to be able to call my dispatchers and go, hey, I want to tell you about this call.
Yeah.
I want to tell you everything you did worked great. And here
because
it is.
of you.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, we gave them an opportunity with their family for 2 more hours. Had you not done what you did, they wouldn't have had that opportunity for 2 more hours. And that's the biggest thing. And I say biggest. There's a bunch of biggest.
Yeah.
We also work with our medical examiners.
Oh, yeah.
Who are left in the dark all the time. And so I would have never known that had we not somebody called and was like, we need some help. And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yep.
So they're never forgotten in this piece as well.
It's so, like, whenever I brought it up at the beginning, whenever we spoke to my brother-in-law, the pieces that go with kind of keeping society afloat, whether it's police, firefighters, EMTs, ER doctors, the dispatchers, that just the pieces that people have to go in and clean up what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's just the number of people that have to experience the worst parts of humanity and the worst things that happen
Daily.
to people.
Animal control. Nobody even thinks about that.
And they're part of us too. So it's like when
we get a new one all the
right.
time, and they're going to tell me something new. I'm going to hear a new one. I don't know what it is yet. We're going to hear a new one and go, oh.
But that's true, but daily.
Wow.
Daily. I mean, every single, and without individuals like yourselves and those individuals, we couldn't function. Like as a society, we couldn't function. And the fact that y'all are bringing this to the forefront, and it needs to be screamed even louder.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's, grants start coming forward, and, maybe we get a little bit more understanding with brain chemistry and all those different aspects that go into it. But it's insane how many people are affected just for us to basically be human and live our civilized human lives.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to kind of wrap up.
Yeah.
www.3ftl.com, right?
Correct.
Is your website, and your contact. People obviously can fill it out, reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's confidential. No one needs to know.
Mm-hmm.
I can personally vouch that everything that goes through them is secret. It's confidential. You will be protected at all costs. I can guarantee you that. Reach out to them, donate to their page, donate to the organization, and help them keep pushing this mission forward. So email is jennifer@3ftl.com. You guys are obviously located in Prosper, Texas, right?
That's where my office is. Yes,
Offices,
that's correct.
yeah. But first off, y'all's board of directors page is awesome.
Thank you.
That is genius.
We have
It's
to
all-
give a shout. I do have to give a shout out. So yes, one of the very first counselors that we used was with Lifeology, the Lifeology group, who does great work as well for Dallas, and Casey knows them too. And they have that on their website.
So awesome.
And I said, you know what? I love this so much because what we do
That's great.
is so messy and so just not great. And I said, I thank you for making it lighthearted, and we're going to use it too.
Yeah, I've been staring at y'all's baby
Don't
photos.
spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Yeah,
for anybody.
you gotta
Go
click
look
on
at
it.
the website.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
look at the board of
But that
directors.
came
It will
direct.
make you
Yeah,
smile.
that came
We-
from them.
Yeah, that was somebody else's idea.
It was, and
It's
we
awesome.
borrowed it.
Great.
And we borrowed it, and they get 100% of the credit. And
Yes,
I think
they are an
that's
amazing
awesome idea.
group.
they do great work in Central Dallas.
Yeah, so www.3ftl.com. Click on Board of Directors, and also click Donate Now. Help them out.
That would be great, too.
Support the mission. Yes.
Yes, please. We're a nonprofit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't thank you guys enough for being here. First off, I'm happy to have in-house guests, which is even cooler because normally you have to do it on phone or Zoom.
And if you hear, we literally just set this up before y'all came in. So if anybody listening heard banging around and stuff like that, that's because I need to fix this up a little.
No,
bit
there's
more.
a fly going through here.
There
Everybody's
was a
swatting at the
fly
whole
in here.
time.
But we're hoping to have more people and get the visuals going and everything. And we're honored that y'all were the first guests.
Yeah, Jennifer and Brian, again, and Jester, I forgot to say hello to him. He's probably passed out, but
He's so mad.
He is. He's so work.
But thank you guys so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks for rescheduling with us. I know I was a difficult diva on this
Okay.
one. But again, the reason we had to change was the peer support meeting. So
Yeah.
it's for a great cause. So thank you guys for being flexible. Again, 3ftl.com. Check them out. Donate there at the page. Go to sonsoftheflag.org. Look us up on all social media at Sons of the Flag. Shout out to Zach real quick. Brighter Than the Fire. I got my bracelet right here.
Yep.
And if you get a chance to look at these bracelets, and is it DJ who's going through how do you order these or get these?
So it's Madison.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. There it is. Charlie Madsen, right?
Madison.
So Charlie Madsen. These bracelets are to signify the burn process,
Yeah.
and it's a reminder.
And those that were lost on the night of Zach's
Absolutely.
fire.
So if you have any information about that fire, again, San Marcos, please reach out. This is not going to be a cold
$100,000
case.
reward. We want to find that arson.
Yes, we want justice done for Zach and his family, so help them out, help us out. Charlie Madsen, Brighter Than the Fire, check it out. Facebook, 3FTL Facebook, right?
Yeah, I think well, not Twitter, I don't know.
Yeah.
There might be a Twitter. I don't know.
We have a Twitter and we avoided it at all costs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know. Jester used to have a.
Yeah, we changed it.
Oh,
we're working on the social media aspect.
Somebody out there listening that wants to help with social media and not just help, but really dive in and be part of it.
It would be fabulous.
It would be amazing.
3ftl.com, please.
Yeah, 3ftl.com.
We've had a lot of great people that help us out that are on our board of directors, that also are our support board, that have helped us out, but they have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And you know,
social media is a full-time job.
And the
as
thing
you know,
is,
yes.
you know, all these donations go to help support these first responders and their families, and makes it so that Jennifer can keep doing what she's doing, that all of those counselors can continue to see these patients
Quickly.
and that's the thing, is we need it quick, and that's what this is about. It's not here to get rich or anything like that. So, but yes, so thanks for having us.
Thank you guys.
It's been our absolute pleasure. When Sherry said y'all were coming in, we were on board, so we were excited.
10%.
Yeah, and then again, we wanted this subject has got to be talked. Like, I don't want it just to be a month thing. I hate month celebrations of bullshit. It's stupid.
Yeah. They come up and you're like, wait, that's every day.
Wait, the other day was oh man, somebody posted it. I was like,
there's some weird, there's some strange
It was like
ones.
loaded French fry day or something.
Yeah, I think there was like an onion ring day recently.
I missed it.
Yeah, well, I did too. Yeah, I caught that one late.
Donut day. I know, but when we get those, we're like, why didn't you post anything for PT Awareness Month? I'm like,
Yeah,
it's every day.
Yeah.
It's every
Suicide
day.
awareness.
Yeah.
We do
every day.
The burn prevention and
Yeah.
fire, and it's like that's
every
literally
day.
every day here.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about every day.
That's correct.
yeah. So sonsoftheflag.org, donate task force if you want to register. Get with Greg on there. Get with Landon and Sherry. If you need a burn application, please reach out. Sherry and Landon are promptly responding to any requests coming in. If you need Zach or DJ, also reach out to them too. Family support. Thank you guys again. Absolute pleasure. And as always, keep the mission first. Stay safe.